The scream that tore through the Montana forest that September morning in 1876 wasn't born of physical pain, but of something far deeper, and Owen Ashford heard it while checking his fence line along the western edge of his property. He reined in his horse immediately, hand instinctively moving to the rifle in his saddle holster, though something about that cry made him hesitate. It wasn't the sound of someone being attacked. It was the sound of someone breaking. Owen had heard that kind of scream before, back during the war, from men who had lost everything. He dismounted quietly, tying his horse to a low branch, and moved through the dense pines with the careful steps of a man who had learned patience through years of solitude. The woman was crouched beside a creek, her dress torn and mudded, her dark hair hanging loose around her shoulders like a curtain she was trying to hide behind. She had her face buried in her hands, and her whole body shook with sobs that seemed to come from the very core of her being. Owen stopped at a respectful distance, unsure whether to announce himself or retreat and pretend he had never witnessed this private moment of anguish. But then she looked up, her eyes red and wild with fear, and scrambled backward into the water. "Please," she gasped, "please just let me be." Owen raised both hands slowly, making himself as unthreatening as possible. "I mean you no harm, miss. I heard someone in distress and came to see if help was needed." She stared at him with the wariness of a cornered animal, and he could see now that her dress, though fine quality beneath the dirt, was ripped at the shoulder. Her feet were bare and bleeding. She had been running through this forest for some time, he realized. "Are you hurt?" he asked gently. "Are you running from someone? Do I need to get the sheriff?" "No." The word came out sharp and desperate. "No sheriff, no one. I just need to disappear." Owen studied her carefully. She was young, maybe 23 or 24, with features that suggested both strength and refinement. This wasn't a saloon girl or a drifter. This was someone who had known better circumstances, and something had driven her out here into the wilderness alone. "Well, miss, that creek runs through my property, and I can't in good conscience leave you out here. The nights are getting cold and there are bears in these woods. Wolves too. Why don't you come back to my ranch, get cleaned up and fed, and then you can decide what you want to do?" "Why would you help me?" she asked, her voice breaking. "You don't know what I have done." "I reckon that's your business, not mine," Owen said simply. "But whatever shame you are carrying, it doesn't change the fact that you are a human being in need of basic kindness. I have got a spare room, and my housekeeper, Mrs. Chen, she is discreet and kind. She can help you far better than I can." The woman looked at him for a long moment, searching his face for deceit or ulterior motives. Owen knew what she would see. He was 31 years old, weather-beaten and worn from years of working the land alone. His brown hair was too long, his beard needed trimming, and his clothes were purely functional. He wasn't a handsome man by any measure, just a practical one, a lonely one if he was being honest with himself. "I am Owen Ashford," he said. "My ranch is about 2 miles south of here. I raise cattle and horses, and I live alone except for Mrs. Chen, who comes 3 days a week. I promise you on my honor that you will be safe there." She stood slowly, water dripping from her ruined dress. "Emma Henderson," she whispered. "My name is Emma Henderson." The walk back to his horse, and then the slow ride to the ranch, was conducted mostly in silence. Owen gave Emma his jacket and let her ride while he walked alongside, leading the horse. She sat stiffly in the saddle, staring straight ahead, and he didn't press her with questions. Whatever had happened to drive her into those woods, she would tell him if and when she was ready. The Ashford Ranch was modest but well-maintained, a testament to Owen's dedication despite his solitude. The main house was built from solid timber with a wide porch that faced east to catch the morning sun. The barn and outbuildings were in good repair, and cattle grazed in the near pasture. It was the kind of place that spoke of steady work and quiet perseverance. Mrs. Chen was hanging laundry when they arrived, and her eyes widened at the sight of Emma. The older Chinese woman had worked for Owen for 3 years, ever since her husband had died and left her alone in a town that wasn't always kind to those who looked different. Owen had offered her work when no one else would, and she had repaid him with fierce loyalty and excellent cooking. "Mrs. Chen, this is Emma Henderson," Owen said. "She needs help. Can you prepare the spare room and maybe draw a bath, Mrs.?" Chen nodded immediately, her weathered face softening with compassion. "Come with me, child. We will get you clean and fed." Emma slid down from the horse, wincing as her cut feet touched the ground. Mrs. Chen was at her side immediately, supporting her weight and guiding her toward the house. Emma looked back at Owen once, her eyes filled with an emotion he couldn't quite read. Gratitude, perhaps, mixed with lingering fear. Owen spent the next few hours working around the ranch, giving the women privacy. He mended a section of fence that had been on his list for weeks, checked on a cow that was close to calving, and groomed his horses with more thoroughness than strictly necessary. Anything to keep his mind from wandering to the woman in his house and the mystery that surrounded her. When he finally returned to the house as the sun was setting, he found Mrs. Chen preparing dinner and Emma sitting at the kitchen table wearing one of the housekeeper's simple cotton dresses. Her hair was clean and braided, and someone had bandaged her feet. She looked younger now, less like a frightened animal and more like a person reclaiming herself. "I heated water for washing," Mrs. Chen said to Owen. "It is in your room. Dinner will be ready in 20 minutes. Owen nodded and headed to clean up, very aware of Emma's eyes following him. When he returned, scrubbed and wearing his one good shirt out of some instinct toward propriety, Mrs. Chen had set the table with her excellent beef stew and fresh bread. The three of them sat down together, and for a few minutes, the only sound was the clink of spoons against bowls. Finally, Emma spoke. "I owe you an explanation." "You don't owe me anything," Owen said. "Yes, I do." She set down her spoon, her hands trembling slightly. "I was engaged to be married, to Charles Whitmore, the son of the wealthiest rancher in St. Louis." Owen raised his eyebrows. St. Louis was over 1,000 miles away in Missouri. She had come a long way to end up in the Montana wilderness. "My family was thrilled," Emma continued, her voice gaining strength as she spoke. "The Whitmores had money and influence, and my father's business was struggling. The marriage would have saved us. I believed I loved Charles. I believed he loved me." She paused, taking a shaky breath. "3 weeks before the wedding, I discovered I was pregnant." The words hung in the air. Mrs. Chen reached over and placed a gentle hand on Emma's arm, but Emma pressed on. Charles was furious. He said he would not marry damaged goods, that the child could not possibly be his even though he was the only man I had ever been with. He told me to take care of it, and when I refused, he spread rumors through St. Louis that I had been unfaithful with multiple men, that I was a woman of loose morals who had tried to trap him into marriage. Owen felt anger rising in his chest. "What about your family?" Emma's laugh was bitter. "My father believed Charles, or pretended to believe him because the alternative was losing the Whitmore connection entirely. He called me a disgrace and told me to leave his house. My mother cried but did nothing to stop him. I had a little money saved and I bought passage on a train heading west. I thought I could disappear, start over somewhere no one knew me." "But you lost the baby, Mrs. Chen said softly, and it wasn't a question. Emma nodded, tears streaming down her face. 2 days ago. I was staying in a boarding house in Helena and I started bleeding. The doctor said these things happen, that it was no one's fault, but all I could think was that I had lost everything for nothing. My family, my reputation, my future, and now the child too. I felt so ashamed of being foolish enough to trust Charles, of being weak enough to believe my father would choose me over business connections, of losing the only thing I had left. I just wanted to disappear into those trees and never be found. Owen had never been good with words, but he leaned forward and spoke from the heart. "Miss Henderson, you have nothing to be ashamed of. You trusted someone you thought loved you. There is no shame in that. The shame belongs to the man who treated you so poorly and the father who put money before his daughter's well-being." "Society would not see it that way," Emma said quietly. "Maybe not. But I am not society, and neither is Mrs. Chen. Here on this ranch, you are just a woman who needs a safe place to heal, and we can provide that if you are willing to accept it." Emma looked at him with those eyes that held so much pain and slowly nodded. "I don't know how to repay such kindness." "You can start by resting and getting your strength back," Owen said. "Tomorrow is soon enough to figure out the rest." That night, Owen lay in his bed listening to the familiar sounds of the ranch, plus one new sound: Emma moving quietly in the spare room down the hall. He thought about loneliness and shame, about how both had shaped his own life in ways he rarely acknowledged. He had returned from the war in 1865 to find his parents dead from fever and his only brother killed in battle. The ranch had been waiting for him, silent and empty, and he had poured himself into making it successful. In 11 years, he had built something solid and productive, but he had done it alone. He had told himself he preferred solitude, that after the noise and chaos of war, silence was a blessing. But lying there in the dark, knowing there was another living soul in his house, someone who needed his help, Owen recognized that he had been lying to himself. He was lonely. He had been lonely for years. And Emma Henderson, with all her pain and shame and broken trust, had reminded him what it felt like to connect with another human being. The next few days fell into an unexpected rhythm. Emma's feet healed quickly with rest and Mrs. Chen's herbal remedies. Owen found himself returning to the house more often during the day, ostensibly to check on things but really just to see how Emma was doing. She was quiet at first, speaking only when spoken to, but gradually she began to emerge from her shell. He found her on the porch one afternoon watching the horses in the near pasture. "You ride?" he asked, joining her. "I did back home. My mother thought it was unladylike, but my father's stable master taught me when I was young. I loved the freedom of it. Would you like to ride again? It might do you good to get out of the house." Emma hesitated. "I have nothing appropriate to wear." "I think we can figure something out. Mrs. Chen is talented with a needle." By the next day, Mrs. Chen had altered a pair of Owen's old trousers and a shirt to fit Emma's smaller frame. They weren't fashionable, but they were practical, and when Emma emerged wearing them with her hair tied back, Owen felt his heart do something unexpected in his chest. She looked alive in a way she hadn't before, her cheeks flushed with anticipation. He saddled up a gentle mare named Daisy and helped Emma mount. She sat the horse like she had been born to it, and when they started off at a walk, her smile was genuine for the first time since he had found her. They rode out across his land, and Owen found himself showing her things he had never shown anyone. The spot where a natural spring fed into a clear pool. The high meadow where wildflowers still bloomed despite the approaching autumn. The old oak tree where he sometimes sat and watched the sunset when the loneliness got too heavy to carry back to the empty house. "It is beautiful here," Emma said, looking out over the valley. "Peaceful, like the world's troubles can't reach this far." "Sometimes it feels that way," Owen agreed. "Other times, especially in winter, it feels like the loneliest place on earth." Emma looked at him curiously. "Why do you stay alone? Surely a ranch this size would benefit from more hands, maybe a family of your own." Owen shrugged, uncomfortable with the question. "I hired help during the war years when I first came back. Young men passing through, looking for work. But I found I preferred working alone. As for family, well, I suppose I never met anyone who would want to share this life." "Or you never let anyone close enough to find out," Emma said softly. He met her eyes, surprised by her perceptiveness. Maybe so. They rode in companionable silence after that, but something had shifted between them, an understanding, perhaps, that they were both running from different kinds of pain. Over the following weeks, Emma became more integrated into the life of the ranch. She helped Mrs. Chen with cooking and mending, tended the kitchen garden that had been neglected since Owen's mother died, and even started helping with some of the lighter ranch work. Owen found excuses to work near wherever she was, drawn by her presence in ways he didn't fully understand. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sun paint the sky in shades of orange and pink, Emma spoke about St. Louis for the first time since her initial confession. "I had a younger sister," she said quietly. "Lily. She was only 16 when I left, sweet and naive and completely convinced that love conquered all. I wonder if my father has told her the truth about why I left, or if he has spun some story to protect the family reputation." "You miss her," Owen observed. "Terribly. We shared a room our entire lives. She would climb into my bed during thunderstorms, even as she got older. I used to braid her hair every morning." Emma's voice broke. "I will never see her married or meet her children." That might be the hardest part of all this. Owen wanted to reach out and take her hand, but he held back, uncertain of his right to offer such comfort. "Maybe someday, when enough time has passed, you could reach out to her." "And tell her what?" "That her sister is living on a ranch in Montana, wearing men's trousers and helping birth calves. That I was ruined by a man who claimed to love me and cast out by our own father." "You could tell her that you survived," Owen said firmly. "That you found grace when you expected judgment. That shame is not the same as truth, no matter what society tries to tell us." Emma turned to him, her eyes shining with tears. "How did you become so wise?" "I am not wise. I have just learned that life is too short and too hard to waste time judging people for their mistakes or their misfortunes. We all carry something." "What do you carry, Owen Ashford?" He was quiet for a long moment, watching the last rays of sunlight fade. "Guilt, mostly. I survived the war when better men died. I came home to bury my family when I should have been here to protect them. I built this ranch into something successful, but I have no one to leave it to, no legacy beyond dirt and timber. I am 31 years old, and I am so lonely sometimes I can barely stand the sound of my own breathing in the silence." It was the most honest he had been with anyone in years, maybe ever. Emma reached over and took his hand, her fingers warm and solid in his. "You are not alone right now," she said. "No," he agreed, looking at their joined hands. "I am not." The first snow came in early October, light flurries that dusted the ground and made the ranch look like something from a painting. Emma stood at the window watching it fall, and Owen came to stand beside her. "I need to go into town soon to stock up on supplies before winter truly sets in," he said. "Would you like to come? You have been here almost 6 weeks now. You might be ready to see other people." Emma tensed. "What if someone recognizes me? What if word has spread?" "You are over 1,000 miles from St. Louis, and you look different than you probably did back there. Besides, folks around here mind their own business for the most part, but I understand if you would rather stay here." She considered this. "No, I should go. I cannot hide forever, and I need to start facing the world again eventually." The town of Birch Creek was small, just a main street with essential businesses and a scattering of houses. They arrived in Owen's wagon, and Emma kept close to his side as they moved through the general store gathering supplies. Owen was right that most people paid them little attention, though a few curious glances came their way. They were loading sacks of flour into the wagon when a voice called out, "Owen Ashford, is that you?" A man approached, tall and broad-shouldered with a sheriff's badge pinned to his vest. Owen nodded in greeting. "Sheriff Morrison, been a while." "That it has. Who is your companion?" Owen put a protective hand on Emma's back. "This is Miss Henderson. She is helping out at the ranch for a spell." The sheriff tipped his hat to Emma. "Madam, welcome to Birch Creek. You planning to stay long?" "I have not decided yet," Emma said, forcing herself to meet his eyes despite her nervousness. "Well, Owen here is a good man. You could do worse for an employer." The sheriff turned back to Owen. "Say, I have been meaning to ride out your way. We have had some trouble with cattle rustlers working the area. Lost stock from the Johnson place and the Harrigan Ranch last month. You seen anything suspicious?" "No, but I will keep an eye out," Owen said. "Most of my herd is in the near pastures where I can watch them." They finished their business and headed back to the ranch, Emma visibly relaxing as the town disappeared behind them. "That was not so bad," she said. "No, it was not. You did well. The sheriff seemed like a good man." "He is. Fair and honest, which is more than you can say for some wearing that badge." As they drove, Emma said something that had clearly been on her mind. "Owen, I cannot stay here forever living off your charity. I need to think about my future, about how I am going to support myself." "You are not living off charity. You earn your keep and then some with all the work you do." "You know what I mean. I need real employment, a real plan. I was thinking maybe I could try to find work in town. I can read and write well, I know figures. Perhaps the general store needs help, or I could offer lessons to children." Owen's hands tightened on the reins. The thought of Emma leaving the ranch, of the house returning to its former emptiness, made something in his chest constrict painfully. But he had no right to keep her there against her will or her best interests. "If that is what you want, I will help you however I can," he said. "But Emma, you should know that I would be happy for you to stay as long as you like. The ranch has never run better since you have been there, and I have never known Mrs. Chen to take to someone so quickly. And well, I have gotten used to having you around." "I have gotten used to being around," Emma admitted. "This place feels more like home than St. Louis ever did. But I need to stand on my own feet eventually, Owen. I need to prove to myself that I can." "I understand that. Just promise me you will not rush into anything. Give yourself time to heal fully, to figure out what you really want." "I promise." That night, unable to sleep, Owen sat at his kitchen table going over the ranch accounts. He heard soft footsteps and looked up to find Emma in her nightgown and shawl, her hair loose around her shoulders. "I saw the light," she said. "Could not sleep either. Too much on my mind, I suppose." "Would you like some tea?" They sat together at the table, steam rising from their cups, and talked about small things. The cow that had finally given birth to a healthy calf. The way the aspens were turning gold on the hillsides. The recipe Mrs. Chen had promised to teach Emma for her excellent dumplings. Eventually, their conversation turned more serious. "Can I ask you something personal?" Emma said. "You told me you carry guilt from the war. Do you ever talk about what happened?" Owen was quiet for so long she thought he might not answer. Then he said, "I was at Shiloh, April 1862. I was 19 years old and thought war would be glorious and adventure. Instead, it was hell on earth. I watched my friends die in ways no one should die. I killed men, Emma. Young men, probably not much different from me, who had mothers and sweethearts waiting for them back home. And when it was over, when I somehow walked away with nothing but a scar on my side and nightmares that lasted for years. I came home to find everyone I loved already gone. I felt like I was being punished for surviving when I should have died with the rest. Emma reached across the table and took both his hands in hers. Owen, you were not being punished. You were being given a second chance. A chance to build something good and lasting to help people like me who have nowhere else to turn. You are not a bad man. You are one of the best men I have ever known. He looked at her, really looked at her, and saw not pity but understanding and something deeper, warmer. Without thinking, he lifted one of her hands to his lips and kissed it gently. Emma Henderson, you have brought light back into this house and into my life. I know you need to find your own way, and I will never stand in the way of that, but I need you to know that I care for you, deeply. In a way I have never cared for anyone. Emma's breath caught. Owen, I care for you too, but I am broken, damaged in ways that might never fully heal. You deserve someone whole, someone without a scandal following them. I do not want someone else. I want you exactly as you are. Your past does not define you, Emma. Your strength does. Your kindness does. The way you have rebuilt yourself piece by piece instead of giving up defines you. She was crying now, but they were different tears than the ones he had seen that first day. These were tears of relief, of hope. I am afraid, she whispered. Afraid to trust again, afraid to believe this is real. I am afraid too, Owen admitted. Afraid you will leave, afraid I will fail you somehow, afraid I am not enough. But Emma, I would rather be afraid with you than safe and alone without you. She stood, still holding his hands, and drew him to his feet. Then she kissed him, soft and tentative at first, then with growing confidence. Owen wrapped his arms around her, hardly daring to believe this was happening, that this woman who had come to him broken and ashamed was choosing him, trusting him with her wounded heart. When they finally broke apart, Emma rested her forehead against his. I am not ready for everything, she said honestly. My body still remembers the pain of loss, and my heart is still learning to trust again. But I want to try, Owen. I want to build something with you. We will go at whatever pace you need, Owen promised. I am not going anywhere. They stood there in the lamplight kitchen, holding each other, and Owen thought about the strange paths life took. 6 weeks ago, he had been resigned to loneliness. Now he held hope and possibility in his arms, and it was more precious than any gold strike or land claim. The next few weeks were some of the happiest of Owen's life. He and Emma courted properly, taking walks together in the early evening, talking for hours about everything and nothing. She told him about her childhood in St. Louis, about her mother's flower garden and her father's stern presence at dinner, about Lily's laugh and the way her sister could never keep a secret, about her dreams of becoming a teacher before marriage had become the expected path. Owen told her about growing up on the ranch, about his mother's singing and his father's patient instruction in the ways of cattle and land, about his brother Jacob, 2 years older, who had been his best friend and had died at Gettysburg, about the nightmares that still sometimes woke him, though they had become less frequent with Emma in the house. Mrs. Chen watched their growing romance with approval, often finding reasons to leave them alone together. One afternoon, she pulled Owen aside while Emma was in the garden. You are going to marry that girl, she said, not making it a question. If she will have me, Owen admitted. But I do not want to rush her. She has been through so much. She loves you. I see it in the way she looks at you, the way she speaks your name. But she is scared, and you must be patient. I know. I will wait as long as she needs. Mrs. Chen patted his arm. You are a good man, Owen Ashford. Your mother, if she were here, would be very proud. Winter came in earnest in November, bringing heavy snows that isolated the ranch for days at a time. Owen was glad he had stocked up well, and gladder still to be snowed in with Emma. They spent long evenings by the fire, Emma reading aloud from books while Owen worked on tack repairs or whittled. Sometimes they just talked, their conversations ranging from philosophy to favorite foods to their dreams for the future. One particularly cold night, Emma set down her book and looked at Owen seriously. "I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen without interrupting." He put down the bridle he was mending. "All right. When I lost the baby, I thought my life was over. I thought I had lost everything that mattered and had nothing left to live for. I went into those woods intending to just disappear, to let the cold or the animals or whatever came first take me. I was ready to give up." Owen's hands clenched, but he kept his promise and stayed silent. "Then you found me, and you did not judge me or demand explanations or try to take advantage of my desperation. You just offered simple human kindness. You gave me space to heal, work to occupy my hands and mind, and eventually friendship that grew into something more. Owen, you saved my life in every way a person can be saved." "Emma, let me finish. I know I have said I need to stand on my own, and that is still true. But I am realizing that standing on my own does not mean standing alone. It means being strong enough to choose my own path, and Owen, I choose you. I choose this ranch, this life, us. If you still want me." Owen crossed to her and knelt by her chair, taking her hands. "Emma Henderson, I have wanted you since the moment you smiled genuinely for the first time. I love you, not despite your past or in spite of what you have been through, but including all of it because it made you who you are. Will you marry me? Will you make this ranch a home instead of just a place I work and sleep?" "Yes," Emma said, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, I will marry you." He kissed her then, deep and thorough, pouring all his love and commitment into it. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Emma laughed with pure joy. "How do we do this?" she asked. "I have no family to write to, no one to invite. We will figure it out together. Maybe we wait until spring when the pass is clear, ride into Birch Creek and have the preacher marry us simple and legal. Mrs. Cheng can be our witness. What matters is not the ceremony but the commitment. Spring sounds perfect. It will give us time to prepare, time to be certain." "I am already certain," Owen said, "but I am happy to wait until you are too." They told Mrs. Chen the next day, and she cried happy tears and immediately began planning what food she would prepare for a celebration. Over the following weeks, the three of them became a small family, weathering the harsh Montana winter together. Emma started wearing a ring Owen had fashioned from a piece of silver, simple but meaningful, and they began talking about the future in concrete terms. "I want children eventually," Emma said one night as they lay together on the sofa, properly distant but close enough to share warmth. "But not right away. I need time to just be your wife first, to know what it is to be loved without fear." "We will have children when you are ready, if you are ready," Owen said. "And if it turns out we cannot or should not, then it will just be us, and that will be enough." "Do you really mean that?" "I do. You are enough, Emma. You have always been enough." Christmas came, and they celebrated quietly. Owen rode out before dawn to cut a small pine tree, which Emma decorated with strings of popcorn and dried berries. Mrs. Chen made a feast, and they exchanged simple gifts. Emma gave Owen a new shirt she had sewn from fabric she had carefully hidden away, and he gave her a beautiful hand-tooled leather journal. "For writing your thoughts," he said. "Or letters to your sister someday if you decide to reach out, or just for recording our life together." Emma clutched it to her chest. "It is perfect, thank you." That night, after Mrs. Chen had gone home to her small cabin on the edge of the property, Emma and Owen stood on the porch watching snow fall in the moonlight. "I never thought I would be happy again," Emma said. "I certainly never imagined I would be standing in Montana on Christmas night, engaged to a rancher, feeling more at peace than I have ever felt in my life. Life is strange that way. The worst moments lead us to the best ones sometimes. Owen, I want to write to Lily. Not now, but someday soon. I want her to know I am alive and well and loved. Even if my father has poisoned her against me, I want her to know the truth. Then you should. Family is important even when they fail us, maybe especially then. January and February passed in a blur of snow and cold, of quiet domesticity and growing intimacy. Emma and Owen learned each other's rhythms and habits, the small things that made sharing space either harmonious or challenging. Emma learned that Owen was grumpy in the mornings until he had coffee, that he had a dry sense of humor that took her by surprise, that he was surprisingly good at cooking when he put his mind to it. Owen learned that Emma sang while she worked, that she was terrible at sewing anything beyond basic repairs, despite her determination to improve, that she had nightmares sometimes about Charles and her father, and needed to be held without questions until she fell back asleep. By March, when the snow began to melt and the first hints of spring appeared, they were both more than ready to make their commitment official. "Let us ride to town next week," Owen said. "Before the spring mud makes the roads impassable, we can talk to the preacher, make the arrangements." Emma agreed, excitement and nervousness warring in her expression. "Should I write to Lily first? Tell her I am getting married. You want her to know before or after?" "After, I think. I do not want anything to cast a shadow on our day. This is ours, separate from all that came before." They made the journey to Birch Creek on a clear morning in late March, the sky so blue it hurt to look at. The preacher, Reverend Thomas, was a kind man in his 50s who agreed immediately to perform the ceremony. "Next Saturday suit you folks?" he asked. "Give me time to prepare and you time to make any arrangements." "That would be perfect," Emma said. They spent the rest of the day in town, Emma picking out fabric for a new dress at the general store while Owen arranged for supplies to be delivered to the ranch. Word spread quickly that Owen Ashford was getting married, and they received congratulations and curious looks in equal measure. Sheriff Morrison found them at the restaurant where they were having lunch. "Heard the news. Congratulations, Owen." "Miss Henderson, welcome to our little community officially." "Thank you, Sheriff," Emma said, more comfortable with him now than she had been on her first visit. "You are a lucky man, Owen," the sheriff said, tipping his hat before departing. As they drove home, Emma said, "It feels real now. We are really doing this." Having second thoughts. No second thoughts at all, just amazed at how much can change in 6 months. Last September I wanted to disappear. Now I want to shout my happiness from the rooftops. Please do not do that. I have a reputation as a quiet, respectable rancher to maintain. Emma laughed and squeezed his arm. "Your secret is safe with me." The next week was a flurry of preparation. Mrs. Chen enlisted Emma's help in cooking and cleaning, insisting everything must be perfect. Emma finished her dress, a simple but elegant design in soft blue that brought out her eyes. Owen cleaned up the house and himself, getting his hair properly cut in town and trimming his beard to something more civilized. On Saturday morning, they rode to Birch Creek with Mrs. Chen, all three dressed in their finest. The ceremony was held in the small church, with Reverend Thomas officiating and a handful of curious townspeople in attendance. Sheriff Morrison came, as did the owner of the general store and his wife. When Owen and Emma stood before the preacher and spoke their vows, Owen's voice was steady and sure. "I, Owen Ashford, take you, Emma Henderson, to be my lawfully wedded wife. I promise to love you, honor you, and stand by you through whatever life brings. I promise to be your partner, your friend, and your safe harbor always." Emma's voice shook with emotion but carried clear through the church. I, Emma Henderson, take you, Owen Ashford, to be my lawfully wedded husband. I promise to love you, trust you, and build a life with you based on honesty and grace. I promise to be your partner, your friend, and to help make our ranch a true home. When Reverend Thomas pronounced them husband and wife, and Owen kissed his bride, Mrs. Cheng cried happy tears, and the small congregation applauded. They signed the marriage certificate, Emma's hand trembling slightly as she wrote her new name for the first time. Emma Ashford. Mrs. Chen had prepared a feast back at the ranch, and they celebrated simply but joyfully. As the sun set, she tactfully retired to her cabin, leaving the newlyweds alone for their first night as husband and wife. Emma was nervous, Owen could tell, and he took her hands gently. We do not have to do anything you are not ready for. That has not changed just because we said vows. I know. And I love you for that. But Owen, I am ready. I am ready to let go of the fear and pain Charles left me with. I am ready to know what it is like to be loved completely by a good man. He led her to their bedroom, the one that had been his alone but was now theirs together. They took their time, gentle and patient with each other, and when they finally came together as husband and wife, Emma cried, but they were healing tears, washing away the last of her shame and replacing it with love and trust. Afterward they lay tangled together, Emma's head on Owen's chest, his arms wrapped securely around her. I love you, she whispered. I love you so much it frightens me sometimes. I love you too, Owen said. And Emma, nothing is going to take this away from us. We have built something real and lasting, and it is ours. Spring turned to summer, and the ranch flourished under their combined care. Emma had a natural gift for organization that complemented Owen's practical knowledge, and together they made improvements they had each only dreamed about alone. They expanded the kitchen garden, repaired and repainted the barn, and even talked about building a second bedroom for the children they hoped to have eventually. In June, Emma finally wrote to her sister. She labored over the letter for days, trying to find the right words. Dear Lily, she wrote, I do not know if this letter will reach you, or if you will read it if it does. I do not know what Father has told you about why I left, but I want you to know the truth. I am alive and well. I am living in Montana with my husband, Owen Ashford. He is a rancher, a good man who found me when I was lost and offered me grace when I expected only judgment. We have a good life here, simple but happy. I miss you terribly. I miss your laugh and your terrible attempts at embroidery and the way you would steal cookies from the kitchen before dinner. I want you to know that whatever Father told you about me, whatever Charles claimed, I am not ashamed of who I am or the choices I made. I survived, Lily. I found love and built a new life. I hope you can find happiness too on your own terms. If you ever need anything, if you ever want to leave St. Louis, you have a home here with Owen and me. All my love, your sister Emma. She read it to Owen, who nodded approvingly. It is perfect, honest and loving. When do you want to send it? Tomorrow, before I lose my nerve. They rode to town the next day and posted the letter. Emma felt lighter afterward, as though a weight she had been carrying had finally been lifted. Whatever happens now, I have done what I can, she said. The rest is up to Lily. Summer faded into autumn, marking a full year since Owen had found Emma in the forest. They celebrated their first year together with a quiet dinner, reflecting on how much had changed. A year ago, I was hiding in the woods wanting to disappear, Emma said. Now I am sitting in my own home, married to the man I love, planning for the future. It seems impossible. A year ago, I was resigned to spending my life alone, Owen countered. Now I wake up every morning next to you, and I still cannot quite believe my good fortune. We have been fortunate, haven't we? Despite everything that came before, we found each other. In October, Emma missed her monthly courses and felt the familiar symptoms she had experienced once before. Fear and hope warred in her as she told Owen, "I think I might be pregnant." Owen's face went through a range of emotions: joy, fear, concern. "How do you feel about that?" "Terrified," Emma admitted, "but also hopeful. This time is different. This time I have you and I have a real home and I am not facing this alone and ashamed. But I am scared, Owen. Scared that I will lose this baby too, scared that my body will fail me again." Owen pulled her close. "Whatever happens, we face it together. If this baby comes into the world, we will love it and raise it together. If you lose it, I will hold you through the grief." "But Emma, you did not fail last time. Your body did not fail you. Sometimes these things just happen, and it is no one's fault." Emma clung to him, letting his strength and certainty anchor her. "Promise me you will not love me less if I cannot carry a child to term." "I promise you that is impossible. Emma, I love you for you, not for what your body can or cannot do. Children would be a blessing, but you are the blessing I already have." The next few months were anxious ones. Emma was careful, resting more than she wanted to, letting Owen and Mrs. Chen take over more of the heavy work, but this pregnancy was different. She felt stronger, more solid. The morning sickness was there but manageable, and most importantly, she felt safe and loved and supported. Christmas came again, and Emma was visibly pregnant now, her belly growing round under her dresses. They celebrated with even more joy than the year before, this time with the promise of new life to come. "I have been thinking about names," Emma said as they decorated their tree. "If it is a boy, I would like to name him after your brother, Jacob, if that is all right with you." Owen's eyes filled with tears. "I would be honored, and if it is a girl, I was thinking Lily after my sister. I received a letter from her last week." Owen's head snapped up. "What? Why did you not tell me?" "I wanted to be sure I could talk about it without crying." She wrote back, "Owen, she never believed the lies Charles and our father spread. She knew me better than that. She has been saving money, working as a teacher's assistant. She says she wants to come west to see me, maybe to stay if we will have her." "Of course we will have her. This is your home, Emma, which means your family is welcome here. She cannot come until spring because of the snow, but she is planning to take the train to Helena in April. We could meet her there, bring her back here. We will make a trip of it, you and me and the new baby if you are feeling up to it." Emma smiled, one hand on her belly. "I am feeling up to anything these days. I am happy, Owen, deeply, completely happy." The winter was easier this year, knowing that spring would bring both Emma's sister and their first child. Emma spent hours sewing baby clothes and blankets, transforming Owen's old room into a nursery. Owen built a beautiful cradle from smooth pine, carving their initials and the date into the headboard. In March, Emma went into labor. Mrs. Chen had brought in a midwife from town, an experienced woman named Martha who had delivered dozens of babies over her 40 years in Montana. The labor was long and difficult, lasting through the night and into the next day. Owen stayed by Emma's side, holding her hand, wiping her brow, murmuring encouragement and love. When the baby finally emerged, red and squalling and utterly perfect, Owen wept openly. "It is a boy," Martha announced, placing the baby on Emma's chest. "A healthy boy." Emma looked down at her son, tears streaming down her face. "Jacob," she whispered. "Jacob Ashford, you are here. You are really here." Owen kissed his wife's forehead, then gently touched his son's tiny hand. The baby's fingers wrapped around his father's finger, and Owen felt his heart expand in a way he had not known was possible. "He is perfect," Owen said. "You are perfect. Thank you, Emma. Thank you for this gift." The next few weeks were exhausting and wonderful. Jacob was a healthy baby but demanding, needing to be fed every few hours and requiring constant attention. Owen and Emma took turns walking him when he cried at night, learning together how to care for this tiny person they had created. Mrs. Chen was invaluable, helping with laundry and cooking and giving Emma advice from her own experience raising 3 children before coming to America. The small house that had once felt too big for one lonely man now felt full and alive with purpose. In April, as planned, they made the journey to Helena to meet Lily. Emma was nervous about seeing her sister after so long, worried that time and distance might have changed their relationship. But when Lily stepped off the train, her face breaking into a huge smile at the sight of Emma, all those fears dissolved. The sisters embraced, both crying, both talking at once. Lily was 20 now, no longer the girl Emma had left behind but a young woman in her own right. She was taller than Emma remembered, her face more mature, but her eyes held the same warmth and mischief they always had. "You look wonderful," Lily said, holding Emma at arm's length. "Married life clearly agrees with you." "It does," Emma agreed. "Lily, this is my husband Owen and this is our son Jacob." Lily's eyes went soft as she looked at the baby sleeping in Owen's arms. "He is beautiful. Can I hold him?" They spent the night in Helena, catching up on the years apart. Lily told them how she had confronted their father after Emma left, how she had refused to believe the lies about her sister. Their mother had eventually confessed the truth to Lily, admitting that she had been too weak to stand up to her husband, but had never stopped loving Emma. "Father is a bitter man," Lily said. "He lost the business anyway after the Whitmores withdrew their support. Charles married some poor girl from Chicago whose family had money. I heard he treats her terribly. Mother and I live in a small apartment now. Father drinks too much and blames everyone but himself for his failures." "I am sorry," Emma said. "Sorry you have had to live with that. It is not your fault, it is his. But Emma, I am done with St. Louis. I want to start over, make my own life. If you and Owen will have me, I would like to stay in Montana. Find work, maybe meet someone who will love me the way Owen obviously loves you." "You are welcome for as long as you want to stay," Owen said firmly. "Family is family." They returned to the ranch, now a party of 4 plus Mrs. Chen. Lily fit into their life surprisingly easily, helping with Jacob and the household work, learning about ranch life with enthusiasm. She had a talent for numbers and soon took over managing the ranch accounts, freeing Owen to focus more on the physical work. Summer came, and the ranch prospered. Owen hired 2 seasonal hands to help with the cattle, young men who worked hard and stayed in the bunkhouse he had not used in years. Lily caught the eye of one of them, a quiet man named Samuel Porter who had come west from Pennsylvania. Owen watched carefully to ensure Samuel was worthy of Lily's attention, and eventually decided he was a good man, if a bit shy. Emma healed fully from Jacob's birth and regained her strength. She and Owen made love again, gently at first and then with growing passion, their connection deepened by the family they had created together. They talked about having more children eventually, but agreed to wait a while to enjoy Jacob's babyhood before adding another. One evening in late summer, as they sat on the porch watching Lily and Samuel take a walk together, while Mrs. Chen minded Jacob inside, Emma leaned against Owen's shoulder and sighed contentedly. "You ever think about how different our lives would be if you had not found me that day?" she asked. "Sometimes. I would probably still be alone, going through the motions of living without really being alive. You saved me as much as I saved you, Emma." "We saved each other," she corrected. "You gave me grace when I expected judgment, and I gave you a reason to open your heart again." "Best trade I ever made," Owen said, kissing the top of her head. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun paint the sky in brilliant colors, listening to their son's happy babbling from inside the house. The ranch that had once been a place of loneliness had become a home full of love and laughter and possibility. 2 years later, Emma gave birth to their second child, a daughter they named Lily Rose Ashford after Emma's sister and Owen's mother. By then, Lily had married Samuel, and they had built a small house on the far edge of Owen's property, creating their own life while remaining close to family. Mrs. Cheng continued to work at the ranch, more family than employee now, teaching Emma and Lily the recipes and remedies she had learned in China and in her years in America. Jacob grew into a sturdy, curious boy who followed his father everywhere, already showing signs of the same quiet determination that characterized Owen. Lily Rose was a happy baby, quicker to smile than her brother had been, with Emma's dark hair and Owen's brown eyes. On a fall evening in 1879, 3 years after Emma and Owen had married, they stood together on their porch watching their children play in the yard while Lily and Samuel visited. The ranch stretched out around them, productive and prosperous, home to not just cattle and horses but to the family they had built together. "I never thought I would have this," Emma said, not for the first time but with no less wonder. "A husband who loves me, children, a sister close by, a home I chose for myself." "I never thought I would want it," Owen admitted. "I thought I was content being alone. Then you came into my life and showed me what I had been missing." Emma turned in his arms, looking up at the man who had found her at her lowest point and offered not judgment but grace. "I love you, Owen Ashford. I will love you until the day I die and probably beyond that." "I love you too, Emma Ashford. You and our children are the best things that ever happened to me." They kissed, long and sweet, then turned back to watch their family. Jacob was trying to teach little Lily Rose how to throw a ball, though at 18 months she was more interested in chewing on it than throwing it. Lily and Samuel sat on a blanket, Samuel's arm around his wife, both of them laughing at something Mrs. Chen had said. This was grace, Emma thought. Not the absence of struggle or pain, but the presence of love strong enough to overcome both. She had run into the forest 3 years ago carrying shame she thought would destroy her. Instead, she had found a man who saw past her perceived failures to the person she really was. Together, they had built something beautiful from the ashes of their separate loneliness. The Montana sun set in brilliant orange and gold, painting the ranch in warm light. Somewhere in the distance, cattle lowed. The horses whinnied in their pasture. Inside the house, a lamp was lit against the coming darkness. And on the porch, Owen and Emma Ashford held each other, grateful for the grace that had brought them together and the love that kept them strong. Years continued to pass in that same rhythm of seasons and growth. Jacob grew tall and learned to ride almost before he could walk properly. Lily Rose proved to be bright and talkative, keeping the household lively with her endless questions and observations. Emma and Owen had one more child, a son they named Daniel after Emma's grandfather, born in the spring of 1881. The ranch expanded as Owen and Samuel worked together, buying adjacent land when it became available, improving their breeding stock, building a reputation for quality throughout Montana territory. Emma started a small school on the property, teaching not just her own children, but also the children of neighboring ranches, finally pursuing the dream of teaching she had once thought lost to her. Lily and Samuel had 3 children of their own, 2 boys and a girl, and the 2 families grew up intertwined, cousins more like siblings, sharing holidays and hardships and joys. Mrs. Chen stayed with them until her death in 1888, passing peacefully in her sleep at the age of 72. They buried her on a hillside overlooking the ranch, beneath a sturdy pine tree, and Emma made sure to plant flowers there every spring. In 1889, Montana achieved statehood, and Owen and Emma rode into Birch Creek with their children to celebrate. The town had grown significantly over the years, adding a proper school, a second general store, and even a small hotel. Sheriff Morrison was still there, grayer but still sharp, still keeping the peace with fairness and wisdom. "Look how far we have all come," he said to Owen and Emma as they watched the statehood celebration parade. "You two especially. I remember when you first brought Emma to town, Owen. She looked like a scared rabbit. Now look at her. Strong, confident, raising a beautiful family." "She was always strong," Owen said, finding Emma in the crowd where she was holding Daniel's hand and laughing at something Jacob had said. "She just needed a chance to remember it." Emma caught his eye and smiled, that same smile that had first captured his heart all those years ago in the forest. She made her way through the crowd to his side, Daniel trailing behind her. "Having a good time?" she asked. "The best time," Owen said, pulling her close. "Though I will admit I will be happy to get back to the ranch. Too many people here for my taste." "You are still that hermit rancher at heart, aren't you?" Emma teased. "Maybe. But now I am a hermit rancher with a beautiful wife, 3 children, a sister-in-law and her family nearby, and more blessings than one man deserves." "We deserve them," Emma said firmly. "We have worked hard for every bit of happiness we have, Owen. We have earned this life." That night, back at the ranch with their children asleep and the house quiet, Emma and Owen lay in bed talking as they often did. "Do you ever hear from your mother?" Owen asked. It was a question he had not asked in years. "No. Lily says she is still in St. Louis, still with father, though Lily cannot understand why. I have made peace with it, Owen. I have written to her several times over the years, sent photographs of the children. She has never responded. I think she is too afraid of father's anger to reach out. But I have you and Lily and our family. I have everything I need." "You are an extraordinary woman, Emma Ashford. Do you know that?" She rolled to face him, running her hand along his bearded jaw. "I am an ordinary woman who was given an extraordinary gift. You could have left me in that forest, Owen. You could have judged me or used me or sent me on my way. Instead, you offered grace. You gave me time to heal, space to find myself again, and eventually love beyond anything I could have imagined. That gift is what made everything else possible. I fell in love with you almost from that first day," Owen confessed. "When you smiled for the first time, genuinely smiled, something in my heart just shifted. I knew then that I wanted to spend my life trying to keep that smile on your face." "You have succeeded," Emma said. "I am happy, Owen, deeply, truly happy. Are you? More than I ever thought possible." They made love then, still passionate after all these years, still finding new ways to express the deep connection between them. Afterward, as Emma drifted to sleep in his arms, Owen lay awake thinking about grace and redemption, about second chances and the strange paths life took. He had gone into those woods that September morning in 1876, expecting nothing more than to check a fence line. Instead, he had found the woman who would become his wife, his partner, the mother of his children, and his best friend. Emma had come to him broken, carrying shame that was not really hers, running from judgment and betrayal. He had offered her the simple gift of seeing her as she truly was, not as her circumstances had temporarily defined her. In return, she had given him everything: love, family, purpose, joy. She had taken his lonely ranch and made it a home. She had taken his closed heart and opened it to possibilities he had never dared imagine. Together they had built something that would last, a legacy not just of land and cattle but of love and grace passed down through generations. The years continued their steady march. Jacob grew into a fine young man, serious and hardworking like his father, with his mother's compassion and wisdom. He married a teacher from Birch Creek named Margaret, and they built a house on the ranch, continuing the family tradition. Lily Rose became a skilled rider and rancher in her own right, surprising everyone by having no interest in traditional women's work and every interest in cattle and horses. She eventually married a neighboring rancher's son and brought her skills to improving his family's herd. Daniel was the wanderer of the family, leaving Montana in his early 20s to see more of the country, working various jobs and having adventures before eventually returning home with a wife from Colorado and a deeper appreciation for the land he had grown up on. Emma and Owen grew old together, their love deepening with each passing year. They faced hardships, of course. A harsh winter in 1895 that killed too many cattle. A fire in 1898 that destroyed one of the barns but thankfully claimed no lives. The death of Samuel in 1903, which devastated Lily and left Emma holding her sister through long nights of grief. But they faced the good times together too. The birth of grandchildren, 14 in all. The continued growth and prosperity of the ranch. The quiet satisfaction of seeing their children grow into good, strong adults who carried forward the values they had tried to instill. The simple joy of sitting together on their porch in the evening, hands still finding each other automatically after decades of marriage. In the spring of 1910, Emma fell ill with pneumonia. Despite the best efforts of the doctor from Birch Creek and the devoted care of her family, she did not recover. On a quiet May morning, with Owen holding her hand and all three of their children gathered around, Emma Ashford passed away peacefully at the age of 57. Owen was devastated. For the first time since that September day in 1876, when he had found her in the forest, he was alone. The house felt too empty, too quiet, despite the constant presence of children and grandchildren trying to comfort him. He went through the motions of living, still working the ranch because it was all he knew, but the light had gone out of his life. He would sit on the porch in the evenings, in the chair where Emma used to sit beside him, and talk to her as though she were still there. He told her about the grandchildren's antics, about decisions he had to make regarding the ranch, about how much he missed her presence beside him. "I know you would tell me I am being maudlin," he said one evening as the sun set. "You always said to focus on gratitude for what we had rather than grief for what we lost. And Emma, I am grateful. I am so grateful for every single day we had together. You gave me 34 years of happiness I never deserved. You took my lonely existence and filled it with love and laughter and purpose. Because of you, I got to be a husband and father and grandfather. Because of you, I learned what it meant to truly love someone." The wind picked up, rustling through the trees, and Owen smiled slightly. I know, stop being so dramatic. But Emma, my heart, I miss you so much it feels like I cannot breathe sometimes. This ranch, this life, it all came alive when you entered it. How do I keep going now that you are gone?" But he did keep going, because that was what Emma would have wanted. He threw himself into being there for his children and grandchildren, passing down his knowledge and skills, making sure the legacy he and Emma had built together would continue. He was there when Jacob's oldest son learned to ride, when Lily Rose's daughter had her first child, when Daniel decided to take over the main ranch operations. Owen lived for 6 more years after Emma's death, growing frailer but remaining sharp and engaged until the end. On a cold December morning in 1916, 40 years after he had found Emma in the forest, Owen Ashford died peacefully in his sleep at the age of 71. His children found him in the bed he had shared with Emma for so many years, a slight smile on his face and Emma's old journal open on his chest. He had been reading her entries from their early days together, reliving the beginning of their love story one final time. They buried him beside Emma on that hillside overlooking the ranch, beneath the same pine tree where Mrs. Chen rested. At the funeral, Jacob spoke about his father's quiet strength and unwavering love. Lily Rose talked about how her father had taught her to value herself beyond society's expectations. Daniel described the grace his father had shown not just to his mother, but to everyone who had ever needed help or a second chance. But it was Lily, Emma's sister, now 60 years old and white-haired but still sharp-eyed, who perhaps captured it best. "Owen found my sister when she was broken and hiding from shame," Lily said. "He could have judged her. He could have taken advantage of her desperation. Instead, he offered her grace. Simple, profound grace. He gave her space to heal, time to trust again, and eventually a love so deep and true it transformed both of their lives. Their love story was not a fairy tale. It was better than that. It was real. It was two broken people choosing each other, working together, building something lasting from the ashes of their individual pain. That ranch down there, that family gathered here, all of us are Owen and Emma's legacy. We are the proof that grace and love can overcome shame and loneliness. We are their happily ever after." The Ashford Ranch continued to thrive for generations, passed down through Jacob's line, and managed with the same care and dedication Owen and Emma had established. The house was expanded and modernized over the years, but the original structure remained, a testament to its solid construction and the love that had filled it. Emma's journal, which Owen had been reading the night he died, was preserved and became a treasured family heirloom. In it, she had documented not just the facts of their life together, but the emotions, the growth, the deep love that had sustained them through everything. One entry, written on their 10th anniversary, captured the essence of their relationship. "Today marks 10 years since Owen and I married, but really it marks 13 years since he found me in the forest and offered me grace. I have been thinking about that word, grace. It means undeserved favor, kindness given freely without expectation of return. Owen gave me grace when I was drowning in shame, when I felt I deserved nothing but judgment. He saw me, truly saw me, and chose to help anyway. That grace saved my life. It gave me time to heal, to find myself again, to learn to trust. And eventually, it grew into love, the deepest and truest love I have ever known. I have tried to give that same grace to others over the years, to our children, to students in my school, to neighbors in need. Because I learned from Owen that grace is not just a gift you receive, it is a gift you pass forward. It is how we heal each other and ourselves. It is how we build lives worth living. I hope our children and their children remember this. I hope they remember that we all need grace sometimes, and we all have the power to offer it. That is our legacy, Owen's and mine. Not the ranch or the land or even our love story, beautiful as it has been. Our legacy is grace, offered freely, given without judgment, powerful enough to transform shame into joy and loneliness into love. And that legacy did continue, long after both Emma and Owen were gone. The ranch remained a place where people in need could find help without judgment, where second chances were given freely, where grace was not just a word but a way of life. The story of how Owen found Emma in the forest that September morning became a family legend, told and retold to each new generation. It was a story about shame and grace, loneliness and love, the power of seeing someone truly and choosing to help anyway. It was a reminder that the worst moments of our lives can lead to the best ones, that broken people can heal each other, that love can grow in the most unexpected places. Long after the last person who had known Owen and Emma personally was gone, their story remained. It lived on in the ranch they had built together, in the descendants who carried their names and values forward, in the journal entries that preserved Emma's voice across the decades, in the simple headstone on the hillside that read, Owen and Emma Ashford. They found grace in each other. And if you visited that ranch on a quiet evening, when the Montana sun painted the sky in brilliant colors and the wind whispered through the pines, you might almost feel their presence still. Owen checking the fence line one more time, Emma singing while she worked in the garden, their love story echoing across the years, a testament to the transforming power of grace freely given and gratefully received. Their happily ever after was not a moment, but a lifetime, built day by day through choice and commitment and love. It was proof that the best love stories are not about perfection, but about grace. Not about finding someone who completes you, but about choosing each other again and again, building something beautiful from broken pieces, transforming shame into strength and loneliness into lasting love. And so the story that began with a scream of despair in a Montana forest ended with generations of love and life and legacy. All because one lonely rancher heard that scream and chose to offer grace instead of judgment, kindness instead of condemnation. It ended with proof that we all have the power to save each other, that grace given freely can transform everything, that love built on a foundation of acceptance and trust can last not just a lifetime but for generations beyond. That is the story of Emma and Owen Ashford, written in the land they worked, the children they raised, the love they shared, and the grace they offered not just to each other but to everyone they encountered. It is a story that refuses to end, living on in memory and legacy, a reminder that the best love stories are the ones we write together, one day at a time, with grace and commitment and open hearts.